Well, we've had a wonderful conversation this morning, a very eclectic group, many different opinions and perspectives. We have academics, practitioners, and the key issue, which is what does meaningful work look like, is one that we explored in some detail. One of the more interesting strands to emerge this morning is the importance of boundaries, that bringing the full self to work can be a very good thing, but it can also be quite dangerous when one's identity is so bound up with the definition of one's job. If something goes wrong in either component, it spills over into the next. So boundaries are important. And people spoke about creating those boundaries, the necessity to create a framework in which one can be successful at work, but also explore meaning and purpose outside work. What I hope the participants take from this is a greater sense of clarity that defines work and that enables them as individuals to give more to their work and to get more out of work.
I do research in the area, so I'm quite struck by the fact that many of the people talking about their own experiences of the blurring between kind of working identity and personal identity are bringing up many of the problems we see in the literature, such as needing often, if you invest too much in your work identity, there's often a sense that your personal identity will suffer or sometimes wither on the vine. The second thing is often making transitions is a very big, difficult thing, so whether that's retirement, moving between jobs, or suddenly when you face that you're out of work. So I found that very interesting. But personally, I also found it very fascinating. In many ways, it reflects many of the problems I suppose I face as an individual, which is this kind of constant blurring of when am I being myself outside of work and when am I being myself as a professor in work. And the fact that those two things are very, very hard to kind of tease apart. And it's interesting to hear the kinds of experiences which people who are landscape gardeners, corporate bankers, or entrepreneurs are facing are quite similar to the kind of problems which I face. I mean, the most stunning thing for me was the rabbi who's leading it was talking about his own kind of working life, and it almost perfectly mirrored kind of my working life. So that's kind of interesting, I think. I think I'll bring it back into the work I do, both as kind of maybe anecdotes for teaching, but also I think I'll bring it back, it might begin to shape some of my research agenda. I think one thing which came up which is very interesting is the fact that as we're beginning to face kind of more and more crisis around employment and the kind of withering of employment, it results in people having to engage in more and more transitions between jobs. And often those transitions aren't just kind of moving from one skill set to another. There's a personality a transition in identity. And there's a whole bunch of kind of companies, such as one of our participants, which are popping up to basically fill this role. So I think there's something interesting there about kind of this economy of employment transitions, which is popping up, which could be researched. I find the group really interesting because it's quite mixed. So the fact that there are a number of people who are kind of small business people there, the fact that there is someone from banking who works in a large bureaucracy, a few academics, someone who's a landscape gardener, it then results in people coming with quite different experiences, but then being able to tease out some strange commonalities, maybe which we didn't potentially expect. So I find this kind of conversation between different people potentially very interesting. So I must admit, when I walked in the door, I kind of thought, here we go again. Here's going to be a lot of people talking about how great it is to be authentic at work. And we had a little bit of that, but I think we quickly got beyond the kind of the pop management messages towards the deep personal dilemmas which people actually face when they're doing these things.
The conversation this morning's been very exciting, extremely interesting. The variety of people here, a wide cross-section of people from different businesses with different qualifications, some very senior people with long careers behind them. But we've all got varied life experiences and working experiences, and it's been, I've learnt a lot. Definitely, I think it's revealed, people have been quite honest about how they feel and how their work affects them. I've learnt a lot about what people feel about their work, and that some of the things they feel are the things that I'm feeling too, and I didn't know were quite as universal as they seem to be.
Because the group had people from different backgrounds, entrepreneurs, people working in big companies, bankers, academics, it was interesting to see what perspectives that they brought in. The topic was about work and identity and who you are. And after listening to many of the people around in terms of how much you bring yourself into work, I came to the conclusion that I have no life because I have my work is my life. And it's interesting that not everybody felt like that. Some people deliberately distanced themselves from their work, tried to set up boundaries. Some people acknowledged that there were boundaries, were resentful about it, but tried to manage it. And some other people said, well, this is a fact of 21st century life. You can't just leave your work and go home. You're kind of accountable or responsible to work this way. So it was an interesting diversity of perspectives. And the topic also moved to the future, I guess, which is what we're going to possibly talk about after the break, is what happens in a global sense. What is work? What is identity in the face of a global growing recession? How is that going to redefine what people think about work and identity? I don't think we've come to the reflective process yet. We were still listening to what everybody had to say. So I think in the next session we'll probably be unpacking some of the issues. But from a personal perspective, I would find it difficult to see what I would change. Given that I said the fact is I have no life outside work, I don't think that's going to change unless I don't become an academic, which is pretty much my identity.
The conversations have been really rich. It's an environment, it's very diverse people. You get different perspectives and great exchanges. It's a rich learning experience for me. I think many things. I think one of the first things is just you get to meet people that have different perspectives and appreciate different types of companies, different types of roles, different types of thinking. And it's for me it helps because these are a lot of types of businesses that I work with, and it's interesting to know what they think.